Oh, look at this, my friends. Minecraft.net is treating us to a peek at the trial chambers. But with this article, we get to see a bit more of kind of what we already know from the Minecraft live event, but there was one screenshot that captivated my attention. It had this item in it right here, some sort of copper key with a dark skull on the top of it. Now today is Tuesday and Wednesdays are snapshot days. I reckon it's very likely we're going to get to see this in-game tomorrow. And last week with 44A, they took a break from adding the new features, which of course I covered last week here on the channel. The reason I mention this is just in case you might not be subscribed. Look, if you want to catch tomorrow's snapshot, make sure you don't miss it, find out what this key is going to be all about, then hit the subscribe button. So let's jump into the article, which reminds us that we're going to be looking at the first iteration of these features, so we can expect changes to what we're seeing based on feedback. The first set of images is for the trial chambers, described as a challenging structure. And one of the first things that come to mind looking at these images is the sense of scale. Maybe not so much in this one, this appears to be more of a corridor, but in these rooms that have the spawners, there is a lot of height, a lot of width here. I was counting some of the blocks. It looks like these rooms could be as big as 20 by 20, maybe 15 blocks tall. And I've also been wondering if these blocks are going to be waxed. I think there's a clear aesthetic idea here with the green on the floor and the orange and the copper on the sides. So I would guess that all of these blocks are probably going to be waxed, but it'd be interesting to see if they weren't and they could age and change with time. So in the text related to the images, there is talks of traps, spawners and mobs, and then treasure, which I think refers to items inside of a loot chest, which I'm not going to get excited about. However, further down in the article, it refers to resources that might help you. This got me wondering, are we going to find some blocks along the way that will aid us in this combat? I think they might be referring to the copper bulb there. Last of all though, it mentions these are going to be procedurally generated, so each one in your world will be unique one to the next. Next we have the Breeze, described as a mischievous mob, and in these screenshots we're basically seeing the Breeze on its own. I don't see any other mobs in these screenshots. One thing that I will say about it is I think it looks really cool. It's obviously got a link to the blaze, but if you imagine that the wind around it isn't there, I think its body size looks kind of small. So I wouldn't be surprised if this mob went through some iterations before we saw it in 1.21. And the text related to these images kind of plays up what we learned from Minecraft Live, talking about the attacks using rapid blasts of wind, which does sound cool, and it hints at it being a challenge even for the seasoned survivalists. I really hope they can get this right and make this mob a challenge, because it's so easy to cheese mobs in Minecraft, but it's clear they're really making an attempt here to do something unique. So next up is the trial spawner itself. Trials and rewards, which I think is related to the key for parties of all sizes. Just before we look through these images, I want to go to my own video, which is actually just showing the Minecraft live video, so it's essentially in that one. There was a detail I didn't quite pick up when I was commenting on this, and you can see it here on the left of the screen. There is actually slimes in this area. And I might have thought this was a slime chunk thing if it wasn't for a particular moment of this video. Okay, here it is. Pause. Look at these blocks down here. That looks like it might be moss or lime terracotta, and clearly there is a slime on top of this spawner. So as you'll see in this image, we have sand, and then we have the tough block with the breeze in the background. Maybe the tough block is what indicates it's going to spawn the breeze mob. Then we also have husks around what you could say is sand, but looking a little closer, it almost looks like bone blocks. So maybe that's actually for skeletons. There's also a silverfish here as well, so there could be a variety of mobs that these spawners could spawn, including slimes, as we've learned from Minecraft Live. Again, here are the tough blocks with the breeze block right next to it. We have another image of that, and then we have the one that's captivated everyone's interest because we've got the key. The article below then tells us kind of what we already know, that the amount of mobs that get spawned will be related to the amount of nearby players, and then it talks about surrounding the spawner with beetroot. I don't know if this is a hint. I think this is just a little bit of fluff, a little bit of a joke, but we will certainly have to learn about what blocks around this spawner can make it spawn other types of mobs. Because this block is driven by MBT data, I think it's more likely that it's going to be pre-programmed to tell it which mob it is spawning, and then the structure will already have those blocks in place. I think it's unlikely that you would come in, change these out, and get them to spawn a different mob type. It will most likely just be a visual clue for the player. You can see the spawner off in the distance, the blocks that are around it, and you know what's coming next. But now let's get back to the very last thing, which is this key item. And this recreation that I have here is probably a little bit on the dark side, and I think the bottom part is supposed to be copper, but the top part is like a dark skull with glowing green eyes. The closest thing we have to it, I think, is the netherite helmet. And this is where I could be overthinking things, but is it in reference to something? Maybe something that we haven't even seen yet? And what on earth could it unlock? Is there something in the game it might already interact with, or are we going to get a new block that it'll unlock? We can do all the speculation we like, but I think one thing that's clear, this is probably going to be the loot that pops up out of the trial spawner once you've completed the challenge. And so I will leave the speculation up to you. Leave your thoughts and theories in the description box down below, and then hopefully tomorrow we'll get to find out what this is used for. Anyways, that's it from me. Leave a like if you enjoyed it. Make sure you subscribe to catch that snapshot, and hopefully I'll see you tomorrow.